Previously on The Devil on G-String.
It's okay now, Usami. I was hit by a wave of exhaustion. It's over now. It's all over, Haru. Usami stood a gap, like a princess whose evil curse had suddenly been lifted.
So, なんだ。
Yeah.
そっか。
Come on. Smile or something. We're safe now, you know.
And now the conclusion.
Salutations, ladies and non-ladies. My name is Neosekken, and welcome back to my Let's Play of The Devil on G-String. I am ready to see how this story ends. And my day is only just beginning, because I only just woke up. Now, what's that I hear some of you say? You don't think it's a good idea for me to be recording a video only after having just woken up? Nonsense, I say right back to you. What could possibly go wrong? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. I predict nothing but good things happening on my end as far as the recording side of things going. And that's it, really. I got nothing else to say. Let's get this started. Oh yeah, I was also told that apparently I was like 5 minutes away from the credits when I decided to end things, so if that ends up turning out to be true, and I'm sure it is, well, I've said it before several times throughout this whole Let's Play, but a genius I am not. Sometimes I make dumb mistakes. Listen. Why don't you stop scooping yourself up in here and try going outside for once?
浅井さんだって昨日は一日中寝てたじゃないですか。病院行けって言ったのに。
Oh, shut up.
いや。
Ever since that day, Usami has spent most of her time at my place. Well, after everything the both of you have been through, I really wouldn't blame you at all if you just wanted to huddle up at your place for a week, maybe two.
すいませんね。すっかり彼女面しちゃって。
Go make some food. Make him a sandwich! Usami skipped off into the kitchen. I turned on the TV. And also, I gotta say, you've really experienced some character growth, haven't you? You actually trust her to make you food. I turned on the TV. Pretty much every single channel was reporting on the blockade incident. Is that what they're calling it? The large-scale blockade, which began with the abduction of Imagawa Tsuneo, a member of the National Diet, officially came to an end 2 days ago at approximately 7 a.m. Mr. Imagawa, along with a dozen other hostages, were killed in the incident. The police detained all the people in the area. Ordinary civilians were released shortly thereafter. The injured were transported to hospitals, and juveniles suspected to have participated in the violence on Central Boulevard were brought in for questioning. Those of obvious guilt were immediately taken under arrest. However, it is estimated that over 1,000 people escaped during the bedlam, and they remain unidentified. That figure would include yours truly. In any case, once I get a look at the video feed from the cameras scattered around the place, I'll be brought in for questioning too. Who knows? Maybe I'll even be identified by Hashimoto. They say the police have made additional arrests already based on the testimonies of people involved. I couldn't quite bring myself to part with the gun, so it's still hidden away in my coat pocket. Though I guess it could lead to trouble if the police find it. I should probably hand it over to the Yakuza or something soon. There were a devastating number of casualties. Supposedly the count is upwards of 2,000. Among them was Eiichi. They found him locked up inside the motel. He had suffered some severe injuries, but apparently managed to escape death. Wait a freaking minute. I thought that you just said that he was reported dead. The testimony he gave after regaining consciousness led the police to discover the criminal's group motive. They learned that the principal offender behind the event was a man by the alias Mau, and are currently in the process of further investigation.
いやー、浅井さんもそのうち逮捕ですね。
I know. I've been a bad boy. I need to face justice. I told you to shut up.
拳銃は捨てたって言ってましたよね。
No. Yeah. I lied. Liar. I'll be in big trouble if Miss Hard-On for Justice here finds it. But man, this sucks. Gonzo's dead, so I don't have anyone supporting me anymore. Speaking of Gonzo, apparently his funeral was cancelled, seeing as neither Haribi nor any of the other high-ranking members of the Soniyama group could make it. You know, I'm starting to have a sneaking suspicion from a meta perspective, as it were, as to why exactly I have the gun right now. Is it because I'm gonna need somebody to defend myself because, I don't know, one of Big Bro's goons decides, he wants to rob me or something? Maybe somebody from the Yakuza? Maybe some of the delinquents that I beat up on during my daring escape? Maybe he found out where I lived and wants to try to exchange fisticuffs with me? Or maybe, my little troll minion has finally had his balls drop and he's going to try to usurp the throne from me. It's probably the last one. Either way, I'll shoot him dead if he tries. Speaking of Gonzo, apparently his funeral was cancelled, seeing as neither Haribi nor any of the other high-ranking members of the Soniyama group could make it. They said they'd contact me with more details at a later date. The school is closed for a week as well, due to the number of students and faculty members that got caught up in the mess. You wear your school uniform even when relaxing around the house, eh?
ええ、まあ、同じ服何着も持ってるんで。
You need a wardrobe adjustment! You serious? Just then, I got a call from Eiichi. Speaking of the little usurper in action.
あ、京介、生きてたか?
Oh, I see. Calling to check to make sure I'm still alive and whether or not you need to get your hands dirty, right? Right? Yep. And the police haven't come for me yet either. Maybe I'll be able to make it through this in the clear.
いや、無理じゃね。俺もさっきまた呼び出されたぜ。
Oh, shit. Looks like you got a promotion when I wasn't looking. You've gone from person of disinterest to person of interest. I'd clap for you, but I don't have the energy for it at the moment. Nor the will to try and summon it. Really?
なんつうの、俺が警察の中に入れたようなもんじゃん、むしろ。
Whatever you say.
でもお互い生きててよかったな。宇佐美も無事だって話だろ?
Yeah, she's alright. She's currently making me a sandwich. Yeah, alive and kicking. How's everyone else?
チラットにも椿も、てめえらを心配してたぞ。
They've temporarily locked down the airport because of the terrorist incident, so she hasn't come back yet. That's gotta suck. Being stuck at the airport for God knows how, what, a few days now?
そっか。ユキ様なんだがな。
Don't tell me. She turned herself in. She's trying to escape her debts to me. Yeah.
どうも、警察に行ったっきり、帰ってこないんだわ。
I see. She'll probably be under investigation for a few days. Makes sense, given what she likely got herself into the second she got in contact with Daddy. In any case, Tokita hasn't committed any crimes that should land her in a courtroom. I strongly disagree with that.
お前も気をつけれよ。
Yeah, I know. I busted out the window of a building, fired a gun, burned down a club. I did a lot of shit. And I looked kinda cool doing it.
おいおい、お前ってついこの間20歳になったんだろ
Yep, last year in December. Wait, you're 20? Damn. You're older than you look. No one knows when my birthday is, so I celebrate all by myself in my apartment. It was lovely. Now, I could understand DeGonzo not knowing your birthday, but literally nobody knew it? Nobody? No one ever asked you? You are a sad, strange little man.
ダブりすぎじゃね
Not as little as this guy, though. Shut your damn mouth.
バレたらきっと死刑じゃん
But it's all peachy if they don't. If you don't get caught, it's not a crime. So you're one of those people, huh? If nobody sees me lop off the head of some random civvy, it's not murder.
クズの理屈じゃねえか
I don't want to be called an asshole by you. But whatever. Well, you are, so...
俺ペットの餌買いに行くから
Sure, have fun with that. It was snowing outside. Then show it like it is! Let me see some white!
浅井さん浅井さん
What? Jeez, quit making such a fuss.
今日バレンタインデーって知ってました
Oh, is it now? You want me to get you... You wanted him to get you some chocolates, right? Huh? I don't believe it is, actually.
今日浅井さんの誕生日らしいじゃないですか
Is that what you meant? What exactly are you up to?
いやもうあれですよお祝いですよ自分の誕生日含めて
Oh, I see. We're just celebrating just because. Fine by me! We've been through hell. Okay.
そこでほらデートとか連れて行ってくれてもいいんじゃないですか
Yes! Now? At this time of day?
ええディナーとか
Oh, I get it. You screwed up the food, didn't you?
すみませんフォアグラのトリュフを作っていたんですが
You should have just made it with a sandwich, Haru. But it's okay. You can get better with practice. I believe in you. What in the holy hell? You're poor, you can't even cook for yourself?
基本カップラでしたあともやし
Jesus Christ. We need to get some real food in you. Freaking bean sprouts.
じゃあ決まりですねどこ行きます
We should feed you some chicken! And steak! That's a tough one. I mean, we can't go to Central Boulevard, so...
西区はどうです
Maybe a little lobster too while we're at it. Whatever. I guess.
ご飯を食べて海を見るわけですよ二人で
You do realize there's no beach out there, right?
いいじゃないですか昔お別れした場所じゃないですか
Don't jinx us like that. Oops.
あ嬉しいです
I put on my coat. Come on, then. Get your ass ready. I put my aching, stinging legs into action just long enough to get my car from the parking garage. We stopped at the first Western-style restaurant I could find, and Usami got the steak that she wanted. Good boy! Good boy! You heard me! She ate like a pig, so it wasn't very romantic. You better put up with it. She'd been through hell. She deserves to pig out. After dinner, we hopped back in my car and headed for the docks.
満天の星空。
What the hell are you talking about? It's snowing. Then show me some white specks!
ムード出てきましたね。
I'll try harder. There we go.
サイさん。
Now I believe you. She leaned up against me. Let me guess. You're freezing?
バレましたか。
Fine, whatever. I'll buy you a coat or something next time we're out. Then, right now, you gotta...
本当ですか？
Don't get me wrong. I'm only doing it because it's embarrassing to be walking together like this. Just admit that you like it, you freaking weed.
ああ、それは真面目にすいません。
That was just a joke. Ha ha.
それで結局
She stammered.
浅井さんのお父さんはどうなりましたか？
Oh yeah, that's right. He got on a boat, didn't he? The Japanese government are requesting that he be extradited as a fugitive. But whatever country he is in right now is being uncooperative. They're saying the terrorist incident has nothing to do with them. In fact, the government isn't even sure if they're negotiating with the right country. They lost track of the boat after it left Japanese waters.
きっとまた会えますよ。
That would be nice.
お願いなんですが、
Usami's expression suddenly grew serious.
お父さんに会ったらぜひ私のことを紹介してもらえませんか？
You better say yes. If this were the old me, I'd probably hit her on the spot. But hatred isn't something you can retain forever, it seems. Alright. I spoke somewhat awkwardly. But that's a big if. Usami hung her head quietly. There will be no more hatred. Now that Mao is dead, the strife is over. Oh, we weren't celebrating. Weren't we celebrating or something?
あ、すみません。バレンタインデーは明後日でした。
Alright, we'll celebrate then too.
はい、自分頑張ってチョコ作りますんで。
I think he should be the one to make the chocolates for you. I don't think I can expect much, but I nodded anyway. You cold?
あ、いえ。
She smiled bashfully.
もう寒くはないです。一緒にいてくれる人がいますので。
Aww. She must have been so lonely. She had lost her entire family, just as I have. I'm probably the only one in the world who can make her happy. Come here. She left herself to me. I wrapped my arm around her. Softly, gently, like a leaf drifting over the surface of a pond. Aw, look at this. This is actually rather cute. It was a sweet kiss. We sought each other, as if trying to supplement what we had each lost.
京介くん。
Her choked whispers floated to my ears.
いいです。
I answered her by strengthening my embrace. I wanted to tell the little girl I had once made a promise with that I would never again let her go. My lips passed that message on to Haru. The snow dancing down from the sky fell to the ground and melted, along with the devil on Haru's violin G-string. Okay, 19 minutes and 40 seconds, so almost doubled the amount of time I was expecting. But I mean, hey, we're here. We're at the credits. Epilogue time. Planning / scenario by Loose Boy. So Loose Boy is the head writer of this thing. What a name. Why are you loose, boy? Oh, hey, I see you in the graphics credit. I'm responsible for some of the graphics. Aren't I talented? And yes, I know these are all screen. Some of these are screen names. Okay, the writers. Here's who I want to see. Well, this certainly answers one question in my mind. How many people are writing this thing? And it turns out I count 7 people. That might explain some of these interesting problems I feel that the story has. Is it expecting me to do something? It seems to snow just about every day this season. Today is Valentine's Day. As I neared the apartment, someone else came out through the auto-locking door. I exchanged a quick greeting with them and proceeded inside. I wonder what Usami is up to right now. It would certainly be comedic if she was making handmade chocolate. I stepped off the elevator and made my way to the front door. I pushed the button for the intercom.
Hi!
A joyful, feminine voice responded in kind.
早かったですね。
Her footsteps pattered as she rushed to the door. I was burning with anticipation. I couldn't wait to see her. A sweet aroma wafted through the ventilation.
今開けますよ。
The door slowly drifted open. Look at that smiling face. It's just so... Yeah. Best girl, right here. She's got a face that could melt even the iciest of hearts. I could almost say that I missed the girl that stood before me. Her eyes were closed. I suppose she was expecting a welcome back kiss or something of the sort. I jammed my foot in the open doorway and greeted her.
会いたかったよ、宇佐美。
What the fuck?! You're alive?! How?! How the fuck did you pull that shit off? Like, what is this guy, a cat? Born with 9 lives and he's already used up a couple? I couldn't even begin to describe Usami's face at that moment. It was like a blanket of snow that had once melted suddenly, decided to freeze over again. Damn it, Haru. Tell me to go out and buy vanilla extract. Damn. Yet here I am regardless, on my way back from being her errand boy. My phone suddenly rings. Since I lost my old phone, I had to buy a replacement. Oh, how fucking convenient! You had to lose your phone right around time this shit happens. I answered it, on the off chance it might be a client. Oh, Haribi. I take it they decided on a date for father's funeral then? Hmm? I'm listening. No. The name doesn't ring any bells. What about him? Disappear? I have a bad feeling about this. When was the last time you saw him? Wait, he was that bus driver? The bus. My mind went back to the scene. I watched with my own eyes as a man crawled from the bus, enveloped in a pillar of flame. Oh my god. We'll talk about this later. Wasn't that bus surrounded by a freaking squad of officers? Like, how the hell could he have gotten out? I canceled the call. Without so much as closing my phone, I dialed Haru's number. The first attempt, Haru did not pick up. The second attempt, Haru did not pick up. She was supposed to be at home making chocolate, and yet I wasn't getting any answer at all. I dropped my shopping bags and ran. Shit! The man in that terrible conflagration wasn't Mao. He must have given the driver his gun, then used him as a substitute. Now that I think about it, I remember seeing Mao go near the emergency exit window. Now that you mention it, I think I vaguely remember that too. He staged a shootout with the police, busted out the window, and then shot the fuel tank. After that, he made use of the ensuing chaos to escape. Son of a bitch. Even Haru and I were able to elude the police at the time. It would have been a simple job for him. I have to hurry. Mau is still alive. Unadulterated dread descended upon Usami Haru when she saw the devil in her doorway. She immediately dashed backwards into the living room to escape him.
初めて上がったが、なかなかいい部屋に住んでいるな。
Mau spoke with his usual confidence. Haru's eyes were still wide open in shock as she retreated further backwards into the kitchen.
どうした宇佐美？声もないか？
Well, at least he admits he's a fucking cat, so now we know why he's so damn hard to kill.
生きていたか。
生きていたさ。
Just one little bit of spoken dialogue and I get all this fucking text. Like, what the fuck is the translator doing? Or...
チョコレートでももらいに来たか。
Mau grinned.
私のために頑張ったわけではなかろう。
Well, at least you're no chocolate thief.
じゃあ、なんだ。
もちろん。お前に地獄を味わわせるためだ。
Mau advanced on Haru. The emptiness of his expression seemed suited to the grave. Haru proceeded further into the kitchen. She fell around for the kitchen knife. She grabbed air once. Twice. Where is it? Hurry. Mau is getting closer. Haru eventually grabbed a pan instead. She removed the lid and chucked it at her foe. The boiling, bubbling chocolate splattered out, but failed to reach Mau's face.
どうした？
Mau's smile was long gone. His emotions had apparently been entirely rooted out, and his expression bore not one iota of hesitation. He was the angel of death himself. Haru waited for the moment that Mau stepped over the chocolate-drenched tile. When he did, she rushed him like a berserker. Bad move. Mau noticed her attack and took a stance against it, but she continued her tackle regardless. The Reaper had fumbled ever so slightly. She followed through with an uppercut to the jaw. He dodged, as if he had predicted her next move. The result saw Haru losing her balance and tumbling to the living room floor.
終わりか？
Mao looked down on Haru as she lay on the ground. His eyes followed her as religiously as if she just sat down in the electric chair. Something was different about Mao. He wasn't up to his usual games. He had something deeper, something more sinister in store for her today. Sweat trickled from her forehead. She squeezed her fists tight in an attempt to quench their fearful trembling. My sworn enemy is here. Her mother's murderer, whom she had failed to kill with her own hands, had reappeared before her very eyes once more. This was a heaven-sent opportunity. Haru rose to her feet and glared into Mau's lifeless eyes. Hatred erupted within her. Even she has to go down with him. Strength filled Haru's every limb, preparing her for what must be done. A gunshot suddenly rang out. Mau arrived. He had been hit in the shoulder. Is that you, Kyosuke? Blood spurted from the wound, staining his suit red. Haru looked over to where the shot had been fired from. Kyosuke stood in the doorway, holding a gun at the ready. He fired a second shot, but did not make its target. Mao groaned and savagely charged Kyosuke. Mao! I pulled the trigger without hesitation. Unfortunately, despite being only a few yards away, I missed. Mao reached inside his suit. He pulled out something black. A gun. But then for some reason, he just threw it away. What's his game?
Doke!
He delivered a blow to my stomach. His strike caused me to lurch forward. Before I was brought to my knees, I raised my gun once more. Before I could fire a shot, he wrenched my fist. My gun fell to the floor. Mao delivered one final kick before running out the door.
Kyosuke-kun!
Haru, are you okay?
私は大丈夫です。
Yeah, same here. I managed to straighten out my knees as they're on the verge of collapse.
追いましょう!
Hey! Haru dashes right past me and heads outside. Wait! It's too dangerous. Wait until we call the police. Hell, even the Soniyama group. I look for the gun I dropped on the floor. It's gone. Did Haru take it? Well, take the gun that he dropped. I snatched up the gun that Mao tossed aside and chased after Haru. There's something weird about all of this. Yeah, Wait a minute. He threw his gun away for seemingly no reason. Is he actually planning on on us shooting him dead or something? This is some kind of this is some kind of freaking murder-suicide ploy, isn't it? Why did Mao run away? He pulled out a gun, but didn't even bother using it. Did he not come to kill Haru? What is he up to? And where on earth did he run off to? I can hear Usami's footsteps behind me. The wound in my shoulder is throbbing. Usami gave pursuit, as predicted. Yeah, this is some kind of ploy. My legs are starting to get unsteady. I wanted to take her to a place with more people around, but I guess things won't always go perfectly. Alright, Kyosuke. This will be your final trial. I'll make sure you get a taste of hell as well. I will never reform. You'll receive no loving quarter from me, little brother. No, that's not true. It's precisely our fraternal bond that prevents me from letting you off the hook as things stand. I see a little park to my left. There are no swings or slides. It boasts nothing but a tiny sandbox. I'd say it's a worthy playground to serve as the backdrop for Mao's grand finale. Yeah, he's definitely going out with a bang. Possibly quite literally. Question. What was it that served to drive Usami Haru? The answer. A thirst for revenge accompanied by a degree of obsession. Just hearing the word Mao was enough to revive in her mind the spectacle of that day. The sounds of gunfire and screams. The sights of soaring limbs and dangling organs. And the nightmare will only get worse. She must now kill or be killed. Thus, she pursues him. She carries with her the gun Kyosuke had dropped, despite her lack of firearms training. Mao's voice surfaces in her mind.
母は最後までお前のことを案じていた。娘だけは助けてくださいと何度も頭を下げた。
Mao provoked Haru, played with her.
お前もそうだ、宇佐美春。やっと私に巡り会えた。お前はただの死に損ない。お前に必要なのは愛でも友情でもなく、敵であり悪であり、そう固くできる思い込みだ。
During this long battle, Mao had placed a curse on the hero.
だから、バイオリンも捨てたのだろう。
Demons have always had a knack for taking advantage of the weakness within people's hearts. Haru had already lost all self-control. She knew what she had to do. No one would be able to get through to her now. She'll chase him down and kill him without a second of hesitation. The only question was how. Haru had already completely forgotten the gun she so tightly gripped. I ran after Haru and Mao. My pursuit took me through a quiet residential district. Suddenly, I saw Haru turn a corner to the left. That path leads to a small park, if I recall correctly. Only, I was filled with dread. I caught a glimpse of Haru's face as she left the road. There was no sign of the aloof girl I knew so well. She had a terrifying look on her face as she chased down her prey, one I had never seen before. It reminded me of some old myth or legend. After vanquishing demons for so long, the hero himself became corrupt with evil. So that's it? It was at that moment that I finally understood Mao's plan. It was a scheme of profound magnitude. I was attacked by a wave of despair. It's all over. I found myself looking up at the sky. Why do I look up, despite knowing that there is no God to find there? If you have time to freaking sky gaze, go after them! For whatever reason, I can't help but look to the heavens when I imagine what is about to happen. Haru, I'm so sorry. I guess I was the one who thought we had finally severed these chains of revenge. I guess I was the only one who thought we had finally brought an end to this karma. Maybe if we had just a little more time, we could have truly understood each other. You better not be planning on making a heroic sacrifice here. If we had just had the opportunity to talk a little more. What are you doing, Kyosuke? Someone whispered into my ear. My head throbbed, as if someone's fist had just knocked me senseless. There was only one beast who would ever do such a thing to me. It could only be the man who died protecting me. Oh, I see what you mean. I guess I'll try taking a page out of your book. We've known each other for a long time now, after all. Very well. The beast grinned. Looks like I just can't help being your son, huh? I release the gun's safety and head to the park. I lean against a tree trunk in the center of the park, awaiting her action. Her shoulders are heaving. Her eyes look no less than possessed. She's been transfigured into the very image of the Mao that I had hoped for. The safety is off. She's holding the gun properly, with both hands. All she has to do is pull the trigger. You know, I just thought of something. He was very eager to go see his father after releasing him. So the fact that he seems to be pulling off a freaking murder-suicide plot, like, did something happen to dear old daddy that I should be made aware of? Is that why you're just now suddenly just throwing everything away like this? Even an amateur wouldn't miss at this range. There aren't many people around, but a bigger crowd will be sure to gather upon hearing the gunshot. The gun in Usami's hand shakes. It's clearly not out of hesitation, though. She's overcome with exultation and relief over finally being liberated from this nightmare. Her finger moves to the trigger. Die! She shouts through disheveled hair. A figure suddenly appears behind Usami. Very good. After all, I tried to ensure that Kyosuke would not have the time to directly stay Usami's hand. Gunshots crack through the air. One shot lands its target within my stomach. A burning pain soon gnaws at the entire area. I see. So this is how it turns out. That gun is easy to aim, even for an amateur. I wince from the impact of the shot. But even still, I can sense Usami's surprise at the fact that the gunshots came from behind her. She collapses straight to the ground, like she had been struck by a bolt of lightning. My vision starts to mist over, but I have no complaints with this conclusion. In fact, now, my plan has been realized. Mao. After shooting off all the bullets in the gun, I approached Mao. Haru was laying collapsed against the park's bared earth. I immediately took up her gun and stashed it away in my pocket. The event caused an uproar in the surrounding residential area. People screamed and shouted over what had just transpired. Among the commotion, I could hear someone calling the police. To my left, a middle-aged man stood pointing at me. And before me sat a man who watched over the entire spectacle with a satisfied grin.
Kyosuke. Yoku yatta.
I knew why Mao had come here to meet his end. There could have only been one reason. Dad. Samejima Toshikatsu is dead, isn't he? Mao nodded slowly. So I was right?
父は心臓の持病を持っていた。知っているか？
I shook my head.
だろうな。だからお前は救われんのだ。
So he died because of the disease while he was overseas? His steadily closing eyes flooded once again with tears. And you predicted it, didn't you? Or rather, you planned for the worst case scenario. Getting Dad out of prison was one thing, but allowing him to start a new life was another beast entirely. He was an old man, and you had your doubts as to whether or not he would survive the long boat trip.
不安は現実となった。そう。私が殺したようなものだ。
All the suffering that you've caused, and all for nothing. Irony doesn't even begin to describe what happened here. Did you get to see him?
いや、遅かった。
I repeat what I just said. Irony does not even begin to describe what's just transpired here. Mao continued, struggling beneath a sadness too heavy for his shoulders.
地獄でいくらでも父に詫びよう。だが、あれでよかったとも私は考える。 不当な判決を下したこの国に殺されるよりも、せめて最後に希望を持たせてやれればと、私はテロを断行した。
And all the while you provoked Haru. He chuckled faintly.
はるか。
His sad attempts at mockery caused blood to dribble from his mouth. Despite it, he continued on.
京介よ、なぜ母のそばにいてやらなかった。私は言ったはずだ。母を頼んだと。
I don't remember you telling me that.
なぜあの借金取りの養子になどなった。
I could not answer. It was to escape a life of extreme poverty and eventually come back to get her. It was to become even more rich and powerful than Azai Gonzo himself, and then make the many people who looked down on our family rue their behavior. Whatever answer I might give, it would only be an excuse to Samejima Kyohei.
金か。金だろうな。金はいつでも戦いを招く。金は意志を持つ。戦争もそうだった。
He paused for a fit of coughing.
だが金の奴隷になるような弱い人間が私は大嫌いでな。
I know. That's why he had me pull the trigger.
天津さえお前は憎き宇佐美の娘と恋をした。
It was only natural he couldn't forgive me. It would take magnanimity on par with the Buddha himself to simply allow our happiness.
強くあれ、京介。お前は償うべきだ。分かっているようだがな。
Yes. And that is why I chose to pull the trigger.
そこの少女はお前と違って柔軟ではなかったようだ。せいぜい目を覚まさせてやるんだな。復讐に意味はないと。
He sneered at himself.
まさに浅井金蔵の言う通りだったか。
The fool who had sought salvation through revenge smiled.
京介。私を撃ち殺したお前がどうなるか分かっているな。
I nodded.
そうか。ならば私を憎むがいい。憎悪は人を。
He was about to say something, then looked down, catching his mistake.
いや、愛も。
His sentence trailed off into the ether, never to be finished. Snow continued to pile up on what was now nothing more than a silent, motionless lump of flesh. I cannot pity him, nor can I cry. Mau remained the Mau to the very end. He died after a flawless execution of his sly, wicked, perfect plan. Just then, I remembered that my brother never did listen to classical music. Somehow, that was the saddest thing of all. So, I'm basically fucked, aren't I? I'm now a murderer, and now I'm basically going to share dear old daddy's fate in the slammer. What about Haru? What's gonna happen to her? Son of a bitch. There was no time to dwell on sorrow. Haru. She showed no sign of regaining consciousness. Come on now. If you sleep out here, you'll catch a cold. I picked up Haru and headed back home. The people on the street continued gaping and pointing at me. I held my gun up to Haru to make it look like she was my hostage. The room was dark. I laid Haru down on my bed to rest and mulled over the situation alone. You're gonna take the entire fall, aren't you? My eyes wandered to her violin case. It's a keepsake from Haru's mother. I wanted to hear it one more time, but I guess that dream will go unfulfilled. Unfulfilled dreams. Like her dream to be a violinist. I need to help make that dream come true. At this point, staying with her won't do her any good. In fact, my very presence would crush all chances of her success. Haru is already a known artist under the name of Mishima Haruna. She spoke of being retired and whatnot, but there's no doubt that in actuality, she wants to continue playing. If I stay by her side, the media will have a field day with her. I've learned just how dreadful they can be back when I was a boy. That's why I hate standing out. Well, I guess with what's about to happen, I won't be able to avoid it. I'm sorry, Haru. I was the one who wanted to get you playing again. But now irony has come to bite me, as I won't even be able to be with you, let alone hear your music. After all, I'm a murderer now. Looks like the police sirens woke her up. I went out to the terrace and used my cell phone. Hey, Miki-chan. Yeah, it's been a while, hasn't it? I've got a little favor to ask. Yeah, but it'll be my last favor, so help me out here. Alright, well, you remember me talking about a girl named Tsubaki? Evening, Haribi. I'm truly sorry, but I won't be able to make Father's funeral. If you want to know why, turn on the news. Anyway, I have a little favor to ask. After some time passed, I heard the sound of the terrace window sliding open.
Kyosuke-kun.
Finally decided to get up. I tried to maintain a cold tone of voice.
何があったんです?
Does she not remember very well? That's fortunate. The police will be here shortly. I killed a man. Haru winced.
人って魔王ですよね?
That's right. And now the police will be taking me in.
そんな!
She jumped onto me, screaming.
待ってください!
She clung to me desperately.
おかしいじゃないですか!
She made no attempt to hide her flowing tears.
だってあれは正当防衛じゃ!
Don't be ridiculous. I continued coldly. He was unarmed, and I could have called the police at any time. Despite that, I chose to chase down a fleeing, wounded man and shoot him multiple times. But part of that is self-defense. And thinking about it now, you could have just simply wrenched Haru's gun away from her and stopped her from shooting him herself. Yeah, the more I think about it, the more I realize you made a really stupid move, a really stupid decision, didn't you? Maybe you should have thought this through a little more. Furthermore, I'm in the possession of contraband, an illegal firearm. I could have gotten rid of it at any time. I'm completely painted as a murderer here. The fact that the victim was my own brother is just icing on the cake.
でも魔王は極悪人で死刑になって当然なんですよ。
That has nothing to do with this. She's probably screaming and crying about silly, obvious things because she feels that this is all her fault.
こんなことって
Her breath was frantic.
ごめんなさい。私も罰を受けます。
I steeled my nerves and spoke. What are you talking about, Usami? Being called by her family name seems to have dragged her back to her senses. What crime are you allegedly guilty of?
私のせいで京介君が引き金を引いたんです。私を止めるにはもう間に合わないと思ったから京介君が撃ったんです。気づくべきだったんです。罠だったんです。あんな人目のつくような公園に逃げ込んでさも力尽きたように木の幹に寄りかかるなんておかしいんです。
She's right. It was all part of Mau's perfect plan. He lured Haru out, purposely timing everything such that I would not be able to intervene directly. Pulling the trigger was the only means I had to stop her. Well, in that case, then... shit. What do I even say here? Mao had intended on making either me or Haru out to be a murderer. Wait a minute. Couldn't I just shot my own gun up in the air in order to bring her back to her senses? Couldn't that have worked? And there was no way I could allow Haru to commit such a sin. She has a future ahead of her. A bright future, filled with the lush melodies of her violin. I have no idea what you're talking about. He didn't do a thing.
私は銃をあれ
Her memory must be vague. The gun? What are you talking about? You didn't have a gun. I needed to persuade her.
そんなはずは
I didn't come across anyone on my way to the park. Most likely, no witnesses saw Haru chasing Mao with a weapon.
でもそんなはずは
You didn't do anything. Got it?
嫌だ
Please, just listen to me. I sent her the gravest look I could muster.
やだ
She pouted like a spoiled child.
好きなんだよ
I'm sorry.
大好きなんだよずっと好きだったんだよ
I'm so sorry.
一緒にいたいんだよなんでやっとそばに幸せに二人っきりで暮らせると思ったのにそばにいられると思ったのに
I could feel tears coming on. But there was no way I was going to let them out. I can't afford to just hold her close and cry. Getting caught up in my emotions here would only lead to hesitation. I see. You love me that much. Suddenly. Do you have a girlfriend or anything? You sure act like a grown-up, hero. Dad always said girls were interested in that sort of thing, though. Just tell me already. Yes or no? Nope. I never even thought about it. I guess it can't be helped then. I'll marry you. If you remember. If we even see each other again. I have to move soon. It'll have to be a faithful reunion, I guess. Romantic, don't you think? You're moving? Yeah. Why?
バイオリンの勉強するの。
I remembered her weeping face as she bid farewell like it was just yesterday. That's why. That's why I pushed her away. She looked like an abandoned child as I turned my back on her. If you really love me that much, then you know what you have to do, don't you? You know what would make me the happiest, don't you? She knows. She's a smart one, after all. She calls after me in a hoarse voice. Please don't make me cry. I didn't wake up just to experience tears within the first couple hours of the day. I stepped forward. Our time together has been a repetition of meetings and farewells. The cruel march of time once robbed me of my memories. By the time we reunited, she was all grown up. And now, we must part again. Only this time, we will not be meeting again. Another reunion will simply not be possible. She continued wailing. Snow fell upon her trembling shoulders, then melted away. The white sky above decorated her in a shining blanket as she prayed to God. She's a good girl. Perhaps God will actually listen to the prayers of a beautiful girl like her. Unfortunately, I am not as innocent as she says. I've committed a number of sins, both light and heavy. I've come this far by living a life of deceit. I've cheated many people, Tsubaki and Kanon most of all. I wasn't able to save my mother, my father, or my brother. Nevertheless, Mao has left a final trial for me, at the cost of his very own life. Very well then, Mao. I accept your challenge. A number of police cars had already surrounded the entrance. I put my hands up to signify my surrender. In addition, I set my 2 firearms down in a spot where the police could see them. They booked me in the standard fashion. Then, on the night of February 14th, I was dragged away in handcuffs. Three days passed. Each one of those days, I was interrogated without a moment's rest. Since I was suspected of murdering the criminal behind an incident of unprecedented terrorism, it was clear they didn't want to leave a single stone unturned in their investigation. I was taken back to my apartment so they could take photos. We also visited Mau's final seat under the tree and the supposed murder weapon. Absolutely nothing escaped the flash of the camera. Each night, I was taken to the lockup cells at the back of the station in handcuffs, dragged by a rope tied around my waist. All of my belongings, including my cell phone and wallet, had been confiscated by the police. They took my fingerprints, then had me stripped naked to take my measurements. They took my belt and shoelaces, replacing my footwear with sandals emblazoned with the number 40. Once I was marched into my cell and got a glimpse of the meshed windows blocked by iron bars, the apprehensions really started to set in. Immediately after I was arrested, they asked if I had a lawyer. I guess I could say I did, but now without Gonzo backing me, I highly doubt he would be so kind as to come to my aid. I ended up using a court-appointed lawyer. He was a middle-aged man with entirely empty eyes. His subdued mannerisms didn't assuage my concerns about his lack of motivation. After that, I met with the public prosecutor. After being told my right to remain silent, my right to an attorney, and so on and so forth, I was then put back in my cell to continue my life of custody. The interrogations suddenly grew more severe. They started asking the same questions over and over, and kept pushing the same documents under my nose. The section chief of the 1st Investigation Division himself participated in the investigation. He was a middle-aged man that relentlessly smiled, but it was always accompanied by a sharp glint.
だいたいわかったよ。じゃあもう一回聞くがね。
I've already lost count of how many times that would make total.
浅井京介君。
My name is not Azai, it's Samejima. I had my adoption officially annulled not too long ago.
失礼。聞いていたね。では鮫島君に聞こう。君は先の広域封鎖事件の主犯と目される魔王の弟だという。
Yes, without a doubt.
それについては我々も目下調べを進めている。だがそうすると、君は兄を殺したということになるね。
Yes, as I've already told you several times now. For whatever reason, the detective was tapping his finger on his desk.
殺人事件の経緯はこうだ。君が自宅に戻ると、兄が少女に暴行していた。少女の名前は宇佐美春だったね。
Yes. The detective picked up on my slight agitation.
安心していい。少女は未成年だ。何かあっても世間に実名が公表されるようなことはない。
Maybe not, but regardless, they'll make a big fuss over her as Girl A. Please, go on. You need courage when dealing with a grizzled police officer.
同棲していたのかい？
Lies won't work here. Yes.
だろうね。あの日はバレンタインデー。手作りチョコレートの跡が床にこびりついていたよ。
Yes, that's right. Go on. What the hell? I have no idea what he's getting at. Or, I guess, Maybe he's just trying to unnerve me or something.
少女の危険を察した君は所持していた拳銃で躊躇なく兄を撃った。ちなみに拳銃はどこで入手したんだい？
As I've stated before, I found it during the blockade incident.
そうだった。だが君はそれをいつでも手放すことができた。なぜ警察に届け出るなりしなかったんだ？
I wanted to sell it off to a Yakuza guy I know.
つい忘れていたのでもなく？
Correct. Like I said last time, I had committed quite a few crimes back on Central Boulevard, so I was afraid of getting involved with the police. I wasn't lying. The detective nodded profoundly.
君がセントラル街で行ったことが罪に当たるかどうかはまた後日別の者が取り調べを担当する。さて話を戻そう。
Very well.
君の兄は発砲にひるんだのかマンションから逃亡を図ったという。殺人鬼が逃走したのは現場の指紋、血痕、足跡などから我々も確証を得ている。
I see.
けれど君はそれを追いかけた。なぜかな？
Everything was happening so fast, I don't really recall.
慌てていたと。
Yes.
慌てながら自宅から100メートル先の公園まで追いかけ、木の幹に寄りかかっていた兄に向け、無我夢中で銃を撃ちまくった。
Correct.
確かに気持ちは察する。君の兄は稀有な凶悪犯だ。殺さなければ殺されると思った君はとても冷静ではいられなかった。となると、検察官の対応も変わってくる。言っている意味がわかるかな？
Yes. He's trying to say that even though I murdered someone, if I was in a questionable mental state at the time, my crime will probably be treated lightly. I was starting to see a tiny light at the end of the tunnel. However, at that moment, the glint in the detective's eyes suddenly changed.
すると不審な点がある。
What?
君は2丁の拳銃を所持していた。
Yes. What about them?
1丁は殺人鬼が落としていったというね。
Right.
確かに疑いはないようだ。遺体から検出した指紋と拳銃に付着していた指紋が一致している。
Then what's the problem?
わからないかな。君は拳銃を持ち替えているんだ。
I prayed that the surprise I felt didn't show on my face.
君は自室で撃った拳銃を手放し、わざわざ兄が落とした拳銃を拾って外に飛び出した。なぜかな。君はほとんど錯乱していたんだろう。よくそんな余裕があったものだ。
I don't know. I don't really remember.
君が自室で使用した拳銃にはすでに実弾が入っていなかった。君はそれを知っていて新しい銃に持ち替えたんじゃないのかな。
Oh. So the gun that Haru ran off with didn't have any bullets left in it. I wasn't sure how to answer this question. If I admit to that, it would be used as evidence to say that I was in a clear state of mind. But the detective's next words were enough to freeze my blood.
事件の参考人として君の彼女に事情を聞いた。すると興味深い話が出てきた。
God damn it, Haru.
殺人鬼を追って部屋を飛び出したのは自分だと少女は言っている。
I couldn't think of an excuse.
京介君は彼女の後を追って部屋を出てきたらしいが、どうなんだ？
That may be true. What about it exactly?
ここで一つ仮説を話そう。君は無謀にも殺人鬼を追いかける彼女を引き止めるべく後を追いかけた。公園にたどり着いた君は殺人鬼と彼女が対峙している姿を発見した。彼女の身の危険を察した君が背後から駆け寄り殺人鬼を撃ち殺した。
This was an invitation from the detective. An invitation for me to say yes here,
and then fall into his trap.
しかしだ、近所の住民の証言がある。公園から死ねという女性の絶叫が聞こえたという。
This is the end of the line. I guess tricking the police was simply too daunting of a task.
君の彼女が叫んだのか本人に聞いてみたが、覚えていないという答えが返ってきた。なかなか正直で理知的な子だね。まず嘘はついていないと思うのだが、状況から考えるに死ねと叫んだのは彼女以外にありえない。
What the fuck do I even say here to get her off the hook? My hands froze, and my breathing grew shallow.
すると彼女には殺意があったと推測される。君の兄はその段階では武器を所持していなかった。さらに君は言ったな。兄は木の幹にもたれかかって観念した様子だったと。つまり彼女の身に危険は迫っていなかった。先ほどの仮説は否定される。
My heart was about to leap out of my ears.
おそらく彼女は拳銃を所持していた。
I could sense a slight dizzy spell coming on.
彼女は床に落ちた拳銃を拾ったかどうかはよく覚えていないというが、
My knees started to rattle.
実際には拳銃から彼女の指紋が検出された。
God damn it all. I'm such a fucking idiot. Why didn't I think of the fingerprints? If this goes on, Haru is going to be charged with a crime.
が、指紋はあったものの、彼女が発砲した形跡はない。拳銃にはすでに弾がなかった。殺意があったにしてはやや間抜けと言わざるを得ない。彼女がそれだけ錯乱していたとも受け取れる。
Wait, so if if her gun was already empty by the time she chased him to the tree, then... Yeah, I really fucked myself over here. I didn't have to shoot him at all. Damn it, what should I do?
いずれにしても、拳銃を握りしめ、逃げる敵を追いかけ回し、とどめを刺そうとしたのなら、彼女を引っ張らなければならない。ああ、逮捕するという意味だよ。
For what crime? Attempted murder? After pausing to think for a second, he responded.
目立つ容疑は銃刀法違反。同棲していたのだから、君の部屋に拳銃があったと彼女も知っていただろう。いくらでも捨てる機会はあったはずだ。
That's not true. Haru didn't know. Is this yet another result of my carelessness?
その他、過剰防衛。いや、殺人未遂に当たるか。詳しく状況を調べてみなければはっきりしないがね。
Attempted murder. A cold sweat ran down my back.
さて、今の話を踏まえて、もう一度君の供述を聞きたい。
What should I do?
どうした？
What can I do? Haru was going to be arrested. She didn't actually kill him, and she was in a complete state of panic at the time. In light of all that, I doubt she'll be charged with anything major. But she did use a gun. She has a future ahead of her. Who the hell would want to listen to an ex-con play the violin? I doubt anyone would bother to understand her trauma involving Mao. The media will have a field day. They'll only look at the surface of things and try to bring her down. I should have just thrown away that damn gun. No. I guess since Mao intentionally dropped his own gun, the result would have been the same either way.
どうしたんだ？急に黙り出して。
Think. I bite my lip in an attempt to send blood to my hazy, panicking brain. I can't lose here. This is my brother's final trap.
さあ、最初から自供したまえ。
The detective behind me stepped toward me threateningly. The other detective across the table raised his hand to stop him.
君の自白は裁判でも大きな証拠になるんだよ。
Confession. I remember reading in a book or something that in Japanese trials, there's no stronger evidence than a confession from the criminal. Something about once you sign your confession, you'll be found guilty even if you were innocent. Yeah, that's definitely a thing in their legal system. I'm pretty well aware of. I have no idea if any of that is true. I have no idea, but I have to go for it. Fine, Mr. Hotshot Detective. I'll give you what you want. I burst into a chuckle. I guess that bitch turned out to be a useless piece of shit, though.
あの女、彼女のことが。
His eyes grew more stern than before. Her prints are on the gun that I took home with me from Central Boulevard because I made her hold it.
握らせた。
He shook his head.
そんな話は彼女から聞いていないが。
Well, yeah, no shit. I did it while she was sleeping. I froze my heart over. Anyway, this stupid little bitch didn't even have the slightest clue that I had a gun. That much is a fact. Nothing I said thus far should conflict with any future evidence or testimony.
興味深い話が出たな。それで、拳銃を握らせてどうするつもりだったんだ。
I was gonna have her kill Mao, Samajima Kyohei. She was terrified of the guy day in, day out. I figured if she ever had the chance to kill him, she would have jumped at it.
君はなぜ京平を殺すつもりだったんだ。
Use your head, will you? We have this thing called payback in the Yakuza business.
京平が君の元養父、浅井権蔵を殺したからか。
That's right. I fucking worshipped that man. Gonzo was the bravest, strongest, greediest son of a bitch on this planet. He was truly the ideal villain. That's technically not a lie either. But getting put in the slammer for killing Mao? Fuck that. There's no profit in that shit. Now, I would have preferred to kill him right when he came to the door, but...
確かに。京平が部屋に踏み込んできた時点では正当防衛で裁判を争えただろう。
So then I figured it would be a good chance to sick that bitch on him. But just as you concluded, my gun didn't have any more bullets in it. This is the biggest hurdle. I just need to pray there were no witnesses. As long as there's no one who saw Haru carry a gun on her. As far as I know, there wasn't anyone else on the road when Haru was running off to the park after Mao. And as soon as I got there, I took the gun from her. Please. Please let no one have seen that sight. The bitch ran after Kyohei just like I thought she would. Sure would have helped if she'd kicked him to death or something. Whatever. Anything. I don't give a shit. But instead, she decided she'd just pass out on the spot. I guess she was just scared shitless or something.
つまり少女はその時、いや、一度も自ら拳銃に触れてはいないと。
He signaled something to a person standing behind me. He's probably sending him off to the scene to try to find some proof. Well, yeah, I guess that's what it comes down to. Shit, if I just had a couple more bullets, I would have given her my gun.
しかし君にはもう一丁の拳銃があった。それをなぜ狂乱する少女に手渡さなかった。
The fucking bitch ran off without listening to me. That is also true. By the time I caught up to her, she had already fainted. Fucking useless, I tell ya. Just then, the large detective behind me flared his eyes in anger. You little punk! He glared at me with a ferocity that could make the Yakuza jealous. Still, I remained unfazed.
少し待て。
A sharp glint shot from the detective's eyes.
なるほど。君は確かに浅井工業の影役として生意気なことをしていたようだね。泣かされた企業も多いと聞く。
Yeah, what about it?
では聞くが、魔王が生きていたことをどうして知っていた？
The gears in my head turned as I analyzed the intent behind the detective's question. Basically, if I didn't know that Mao was not the burning man on the Central Boulevard, then I would have no reason to make Haru hold my gun. After all, I did so with the intent of having her kill Mao. But I can't tell him that I heard it from Haribi. If I make it sound like I only found out moments earlier, he'll point out that I wouldn't have had time to give Haru my gun before that point. You should be asking the dunces here in the fuzz why they seem to think he was dead. I saw Mao escape from that burning bus. If they investigate, they will indeed find that we had approached dangerously close to the bus. But I lost sight of him in the chaos. So after that, I gave that bitch my gun in anticipation of my next chance at revenge. The expression on the detective's face gradually twisted further and further into indignation.
あの女というが、少女はお前のことを心から愛しているようだったぞ。
I could have sworn someone stabbed me straight through the heart. A sharp sting radiated through my entire body.
お前を信じて、お前の帰りを待ち、慣れない手つきでチョコレートを作っていたんだぞ。
I forced my nearly twitching lips into a smile. Oh, she had that bad, huh? That's hilarious. Maybe I have what it takes to be a gigolo. My chest felt ready to burst. She may be clever, but she's an amateur when it comes to matters of the heart. It felt awful. I hated myself for having to trample over her feelings. I continued spitting my hateful words as each one tore at my chest. Money is everything to me. You think I would want a broke, unprofitable chick like that? She was completely useless to me, except maybe as a patsy for murder. Chocolate? Don't make me laugh. It hurt. I feel your pain. I remembered Haru's smile. Her innocent smile, merely excited to have an opportunity to give me a present. But I have to continue. A storm of emotions brewed in my heart. As long as we live and breathe, our way is paved with ice. A person's life is not compromised of 4 repeating seasons, but a year-long winter wilderness. Whether or not you stop to wipe your blood or tears, they will inevitably freeze over. Motherfucking chocolate. I'll be damned if that's not the most retarded thing I've ever heard. Don't waste my time with that bullshit. Suddenly, I felt something in front of me. The detective who was behind me grabbed my coat. You little brat! Good. Get angry. Lose your cool and cease your pursuit of the truth behind this case. Hey, watch it, man. That hurts. I'll tell you to my lawyer. After jerking me around a bit, he throws me down to the ground. Gah! That's good. Jump at the obvious evil in front of you. This is no ordinary evil. The only issue left is Haru. She'll desperately plead for my innocence. But now the detectives only see her as a poor innocent girl who had been tricked and manipulated. There's no turning back now. The police department's forensics lab and the sharp intuition of this veteran detective might be able to see through my lie. But no matter what happens, I will never revoke my testimony. Once a sentence is handed down, I won't file an appeal, no matter what that sentence may be. After this trial ends, this whole case will be all over. Haru's a smart one. I'm sure she'll understand. And then she'll play the violin again. I don't know about that last bit right now, to be honest. It's been about 10 days since I first surrendered to the police. I'm back in lockup again. I haven't heard anything about Haru being arrested. For some reason, there were a few gifts for me. Among them were a few letters. They came from various senders. I was allowed to use the small amount of free time I had between interrogations for visitation. They do allow you to refuse, but there was something I wanted to check up on. I needed to see whether or not Miki-chan had managed to complete the job I gave him.
Azai-kun.
Hello, Tsubaki. I faced Tsubaki with a sly smile. They give you up to 20 minutes for visitation, apparently. I wanted to make this quick.
Azai-kun, 嘘だよね.
Being in Tsubaki's angelic presence made it hard to maintain my resolve. Come on. You think I'd come to a place like this as a joke?
だって、信じられなくて.
That shit again. All this talk about believing in people and crap. Thinking back, she was the first one who lit my cold heart afire. I'm a murderer.
嘘だよ。何か理由があったんでしょ?
Yeah, I did. The prick killed my foster father, so I avenged him. Pretty cool, huh? I gave a slight smile. I continued talking to prevent my smile from becoming awkward. Oh yeah, and back when your brother was kidnapped. Tsubaki frowned. Now that I'm in this place, I guess I can just spill the beans. I wanted you guys to hurry up and get the hell out of that house. It must have come as a shock to her. I didn't help you guys out of the goodness of my heart. I did it all for the money. Tsubaki shook for a moment, then spoke.
ちょっと前にね、お家に小包が届いたの。中身、なんだと思う？お金だよ。5000万はあるってお父さんが言ってた。送ってくれたのは魔王だって。今までの罪を反省してるって添え状があったの。
That's what you had him do? Is that so? That's good news.
お父さんもヒロアキもみんな喜んでた。
I see. It sounds wonderful. I guess being a good person does pay off in the end. Suddenly, her expression clouded.
でも私は素直に喜べないんだよ。
What?
だってそれは。
She gazed at me with eyes wet from tears. Oh, come on. Mau said it was because he's sorry. Since when did you doubt people?
私はあの事件で少しだけ変わったんだよ。
Yeah, I know. She's become a little more human.
いいんだよ、浅井君。
What are you going on about?
私たちお友達だよね。
She forced her quivering lips to move.
だからね、殺人犯のお友達でも平気だから。今日もね、お家にどこかの雑誌の人が来たよ。私ね、浅井君は冷たそうだけど。
A tear rolled down her cheek.
だから。
How stupid is this girl? Does she not understand how the rest of the world is going to view her if she sticks up for me? What's wrong with you? Don't tell me you have a thing for me or something. Well, that's just too bad. I can't stand women like you. Tsubaki fell silent, as if time had just come to a halt. Don't ever come here again. I don't want to have to see your face. I nodded to the guard to signal the end of the interview. I'm sorry, Tsubaki. Goodbye. Get along with your family now. They allowed correspondence through letters while in pickup. Naturally, the letters are inspected, but as long as you're just sending paper in an envelope, there usually isn't a problem. There was someone that I really needed to talk to. Dear Awai Yuya, how are you? As I'm sure you're well aware, I have committed murder, and I'm currently awaiting prosecution. I would like to thank you for what you did back at the Sano Corporation headquarters. If it wasn't for your act of bravery, I might very well be dead right now. However, there's something I wish to ask of you. Could you please look after Usami Haru? You're an employee of the Sano Corporation, and I hear your father's ability is such that people are even calling him the successor of the late director Someya. When the police read this letter, though? As I mentioned that day on the rooftop, Usami Haru and I aren't actually dating. And I, at least, do not have any intention of ever doing so. Nevertheless, she's a poor girl with no one to turn to. Being a bastard like me isn't completely without sympathy. If she meets your fancy, go ahead and take good care of her. Maybe a bit forward of a request, but please, keep it in mind. Samajima Kyosuke. There we go. I'm sure an upstanding man like Iwai will be happy to make Haru happy. He has a strong financial base as well. It costs money to learn the violin, after all. I handed the letter written with my earnest wishes to the guard. Several days later, there was another request for a visit. Thinking back to Tsubaki's teary face was enough to crush any of my attempts to force a smile. I really didn't want to see her, but I had to meet with her at least once to make sure she never comes back. Kanan? Yep. Her voice was light-hearted, but her expression told a different tale. Oh, and what does a world-renowned athlete want with me? Still as blunt as ever. Her spoiled words reminded me of the world outside lockup. Man, the hour. Because my brother's a dick. Beats me. Her confusion seems to be genuine. Cool. I see. Is that all you came to say? The gates holding back Kanan's tears suddenly burst. She cried out in frustration. They're just telling the whole truth. I guess they're right then. She sheds tears of pity for me. I want to thank her. But with the guard watching, I need to watch what I say. I must continue to live as the bastard who used Haru. Let me say just one thing, Kanan. I'm not your brother anymore. It's times like these that I feel it's a good thing that I annulled my adoption. So I won't be seeing you anymore.
なんで
Because I don't want to see you. And she gets involved with me. Kanon's popularity as a figure skater will suffer. My adoption may be void, but still, we have been siblings up until now. Don't come back. If you do, I'll just refuse your visit.
やだよ
Stop being so selfish! After I shouted, the guard behind me gave me a warning glare. Please, just don't come here anymore. I pleaded with her. You have a brighter life waiting for you. Come on. It's your job to get out there and give your audience something to gasp and cry about.
兄さん
Now go on. You really shouldn't be coming to a place like this.
いいの
She muttered.
それで兄さんはいいの
I nodded. I nodded, and Kanan cried. You're really trying you're really trying at my heartstrings right now, but I won't give in! I will not cry! She shook and trembled, racked with sadness. I should have paid her more attention while I still had the chance. She was still unstable, unable to become a full adult. If I could have another shot at life, I would love to give her the support that she needs. You do, in another story route, if that's any consolation.
私頑張るよ
I signaled to the guard that the interview was over. On the same day as Kanan's visit, I received a letter. I could tell who the sender was by the eye-catchingly bad handwriting. Hey, Kyosuke-chan, baby. You really did it this time, didn't ya? Haribi? When you get to be as hard-ass as me, you don't have to waste time with that interview shit. So yeah, man, I chose not to go. I mean, I bet if you saw my face, you'd just start bawling like a baby anyway, wouldn't ya? But now that it's come to this, I guess you can aim for the top of the world of crime. While you're in the pen, I'll push my way through the legit scene. We'll have that shit locked down on both sides, bro. Oh yeah, I finally made our Noriko's mine. Seriously. No man, seriously. No, wait, it's Eiichi, isn't it? I'm really being serious here, so... Come on. Hurry up and get out of there, man. The letters at the end were more crooked than the rest. That's a pretty stupid joke, even for an idiot like him. I can't even mock him right now. Between the daily questionings, the constant trips from lockup to the prosecution offices, and the numerous crime scene investigations, I was nearing the end of my rope. Being led outside and changed was really embarrassing. From what I could tell, they had yet to find any proof that could overturn my confession. My detention period should be over soon. I hear that things will get a little easier after that. Yet people still kept coming, like some dam had broke. I was surprised when I saw who had visited me this time. Shiratori? But as things would have it, she was actually the one who sent the most letters. I decided to meet with her a single time, clueless as to what it was about.
浅井君
Mm-hmm. Never thought I'd see you here, Shiratori.
来ちゃいけないの
She scowled. Well, whatever. So how's Tokita doing?
今2人でアパートを借りて
Ah. I guess Tokita didn't get any major charges filed against her. Alright. So what are you doing here exactly? We weren't even friends. Shiratori was hurt by that comment more than I thought she would be.
姉さんから伝言
Okay.
一体いつあなたにお金を払えばいいの
Money? The debt that you saddled her with, remember? Alright. I had said something about paying me back for the school and warehouse hostages crisis. Tell her to wait until I get out. She can meet me then, cash in hand. She nodded, sulking.
あと
What?
クラシックの鑑賞会
Huh?
付き合ってくれて
Shiratori frowned, and then the walls shielding her heart crumbled.
ありがとう助けてくれて
Her tears could almost burn a hole through the acrylic plate between us.
あなたは怖い人たちから姉さんと私を助けてくれた
Oh, the thing at the warehouse.
ありがとうってずっと言いたかった
The sight of Shiratori's weeping profile was enough to twist my heart.
今まで言えなくてごめん私いつもそうでいつも思ったこと言えなくてこんなことになるなんて
She trailed off, gritting through her regret. Maybe I really misunderstood this girl. We probably would have been able to get along better if I had just tried to be sincere with her. But still, I had once thought of using her. And not just her. I had thought of had actually used Tsubaki and Kanan also. It's too late to correct the mistakes of my past. Alright, I get what you want to say. See ya.
待って聞いて
She mustered all her courage to her eyes, moistened from tears.
あのね
Officer,
あなたのことが
this interview is over. I stood from my seat. I could hear her sorrowful screams behind me. But at the moment, I just did not have the presence of mind to listen to Shiratori Miyaza's confession of love. Exactly 3 weeks later, I was finally given a formal indictment hearing. The statement read off by the chief detective mainly touched upon murder and weapons violation charges. Dreary times followed after that. I was moved to an actual city jail as I awaited my trial. When the day finally arrived, I just watched over the proceedings with a detached mind. Perhaps because I had confessed with solid testimony, or perhaps because my lawyer was so meek, there wasn't much of a fight in the courtroom. The letters also suddenly stopped coming. During the course of the trial, I thought I might get a glimpse of Haru. But in the end, they never summoned her as a witness. I suppose that's a good thing, though. I would often read magazines or newspapers while I was in jail. I made sure to check the articles thoroughly. There was never any mention of Haru or an unidentified girl in any of the articles regarding my case. Before they took me in, I asked Haribi to try to put pressure on the magazine editors to avoid such a thing. Maybe I'm seeing the results of that. Though I have to wonder why Haribi did what I asked, when I don't have any sort of money or power to speak of. Maybe he just likes you and wants to do you a solid? I lost track of the seasons as I awaited my sentence in jail. Summer came, autumn came, and then winter came once more. We were woken up at 6:45 a.m. and was lights out by 9 p.m. I lived a life of strict rules. I wasn't able to get a bath every day, but I did get regular haircuts. I ended up looking like a monk with a crew cut. I looked so stupid I think I lost the right to ever make fun of Haru again. Ha! Over time, I naturally picked up on prison slang and made conversation with a number of my fellow inmates. The inmates that I spoke with ran the gamut. They were men from organized crime syndicates, men charged with domestic violence, thieves, arsonists. I ended up completely avoiding the man who killed someone because of his drunk driving. Nearly a year passed after my arrest, yet I was still unsure of my ultimate fate. Upon arriving at the courtroom I had been to so many times before, I saw the judge wore more severe expression than usual. My sentence will be handed down today. My thoughts are purely on Haru. And after today, these thoughts will never again grace my mind. Everything is over now, set in stone. I stumbled upon a certain article in an entertainment magazine. The artist known as Mishima Haruna had restarted activity. Now, I have no more regrets. The court finds the defendant. So long, prison. As Kyosuke looked up at the sky. Yep, it be orange. A golden February sunset stretched out above him. It had been 8 years since he last enjoyed this scenery. 8 years! Damn! And at the time, sheets of dark gray clouds had blanketed the heavens. So this would make you 28 now, yeah? Under those very clouds, he had bid his sweetheart an eternal farewell as snow silently drifted through the air. It had been 8 years since their second parting. Suddenly, Kyosuke's widespread legs snapped together in an involuntary attention. Having grown accustomed to prison life, they were now unsure if moving without permission was acceptable. Kyosuke sighed and took a deep breath, his first breath in ages of air beyond the huge walls behind him. Fresh, clean air filled his lungs. The dry February atmosphere chilled his skin. But despite the chill, his past still warmed him, even now. He allowed his mind to drift to the old days. He recalled days at school, where he horsed around with his friends. He recalled days at home, where he engaged in audacious negotiations with adults. He recalled humble days without so much as a smile or laugh, all because he refused to stand out. Kyosuke was weak in those memories. He was a slave to money. He had been nothing but a boy busy quaking in fear of his eye Gonzo. Kyosuke looked to the sky once again. A few flakes of snow had begun to fall. The thought of snow gently falling onto her eyelashes painted in his memory a vision which pierced his heart with sadness. Even now. Yes, that girl. She was the one who had visited a light upon his cold, dark, wayward path. The stupid promise they made as children had served as his only source of warmth. When they first made love and became one, Kyosuke was filled with an unmistakable sense of happiness. No disgust. He closed his eyes. He took a series of deep breaths to put his emotions in check. Kyosuke shook off his old memories. There would be no relying on such heavenly repose. He opened his eyes. There was no one there. Even Kyosuke himself had wished for solitude. He decided he would walk the rest of the way on his own two legs. He had no destination in mind. He would wander like a lone wolf, keeping his immeasurable sadness hidden from the world, buried deep in his heart. Hey, who's that over there who just popped up? Just as he was about to drag his empty body forward, he spotted a pair of silhouettes in the direction he was walking. A child? One big and one small. A parent and child, he supposed. They were heading down the road in his direction. A grim mood came over Kyosuke. Having been locked up in prison, it had been a long while since he heard the voices of women or children. The pair were holding hands, singing nursery rhymes. Occasionally, their tune would be broken up by joyful laughter. Kyosuke directed his hollow eyes to the ground. He merely wished they'd hurried and go. However, the voices of that mother-daughter pair did not grow more distant. In fact, they came closer. Then, for whatever reason, they came to a stop right in front of Kyosuke. Let me guess. Haru, and I guess the little child is your spawn? Did you actually make a baby penguin?
はじめまして。
Yes, he did! Yes, he freaking did! I'm sorry, but I seem to be on a roll lately with some of these predictions of mine on, well, how certain events that happen earlier on lead to other events. Case in point, he does the nasty with Haru. He ends up procreating, and now look what we got here. Look at this. The voice belonged to a young girl. She looked up at Kyosuke with adorable, wide eyes.
お久しぶりです。
The mother spoke with a flat voice. Her hair, which reached all the way to her ankles, tousled in the wind. At first, Kyosuke was at a loss for words. During his long period of imprisonment, he saw many a dream where he met her again. Each and every one afflicted him. He scolded himself for his weakness. But he always thought that if he did meet her again after getting out of there was something he had to say. He had rehearsed the one simple word over and over in his heart. Congratulations. In prison, Kyosuke had kept a treasure that he allowed no man to touch. It was a scrapbook. He pasted within its pages every article detailing the activities of Mishima Haruna that he could find. She had made a name for herself internationally, so it was only natural that her fame had reached the prison as well. The girl who had now bloomed into a beautiful woman addressed Kyosuke.
音楽がなくて寂しかったでしょ。
I had the Bach in my mind. She laughed in response. Kyosuke, however, did not. He could not laugh together as this sunny girl's equal. One of them was a convicted murderer. The other was a world-famous violinist. Snow continued to fall, as if to form a white wall between them. The scenery through the window of that run-down shack he once shared with his mother flashed through his mind. So, what do you want? She flinched at his harsh words. Nevertheless, he continued unaffected, intentionally choosing the iciest words possible. Didn't the police tell you anything? I was only...
もういいんです。
Haru interrupted.
もういいんです。
She repeated. Kyosuke scoffed. His white breath dissipated in the air above Haru's daughter's head. So Iwai Yuya helped you, did he?
はい。
She said with a nod.
そういう申し出はありました。
Offered to? Did you decline? Though a bit confused, Kyosuke slapped on a vulgar grin. I see. Wasn't that just great? I bet you owe all your current fame to him.
感謝しています。この子も可愛がってくれています。
So, how old is she now? The answer to his question came down from down below.
7つだよ、お父さん。
He almost repeated what she said aloud. Daddy? Time froze for Kyosuke. The entire world had disappeared, barring only the child who had just called him Daddy. His conviction deepened. She resembled him. She had his mouth, his jaw, his eyes. Don't lie to me, he said, his voice shaking.
間違いがないことは私が一番よく知っています。
Her decisive response brought Kyosuke to a frenzy.
あなただけです。私にはあなたしかいないんです。
Kyosuke cursed. He cursed the heavens. He cursed God's whims. He cursed the devil's cruelty. He just couldn't stay calm unless he rebuked something, anything responsible for the fate of deprived, star-crossed children. It was only the miserable realization that no condemnation could alter the truth before him that brought him back to reality and dropped him into the pit of despair. A murderer's daughter spoke once again.
お父さん、頭撫でて。
Well, the despair is overpowering, but if I were him right now, I might feel inclined to power on through it and pet you. A murderer's grandchild sought Kyosuke's cold hand. An unknown force pulled at his arm. Her hair was soft. He touched the child's head. Let the head fill your cold heart with warmth. He actually did it. Suddenly, Azai Kyosuke was afflicted with strife. No, she's not. He can't turn this girl into the daughter of a murderer.
京介くん、もういいんだよ。
Haru's voice was misted with tears. Kyosuke's sight was misted with tears. Cut it out. You're wrong. She's not my...
もう泣いていいんだよ。
She's not... my...
お疲れ様。
She's... His subdued sobbing preventing any further words. The hand resting on the child's head froze in place, like it was stuck there.
また一からやり直そう。今度は3人だよ。ね、京介くん。
Kyosuke's expression was torn by sadness. The madman cried. It was the howling of the beast within him who once tried to sever the chains of revenge. It definitely was not howling then.
お父さん、ずっと一緒だよ。お母さんもいるよ。私ピアノしてるんだ。ねえ、見て、聞いて。
You even play an instrument. She smiled, inviting him to happiness. Her bright voice lingered in his ears. The way she said the word daddy caused his heart to waver. Azai Kyosuke wept. After coming face to face with such a pure angel at the end of his life fraught with demons, there was nothing else he could do. And then, when Haru told him the name of his daughter, the powdery snow suddenly came to a halt. Almost as if it were a harbinger for an early spring.
Well, we're finally here. Took a lot longer to get to this point than I initially expected it to, but here we are. It's over. Finally beat Devilman and, well, got something as close to a happy ending as we could probably reasonably get, all things considered. So, what do I think of this game? Well, in brief, I like it. I like it a good bit, actually, in spite of it falling short in a few areas, which I will get to shortly. But why don't I start with with a general overview of the positives I like about it, and then just go from there. So, besides all the little bits of classical music trivia that I end up learning throughout the story, even though I wasn't terribly interested in it at first, I guess my favorite part of the story was Kyosuke and Haru's relationship, and watching it formulate throughout the story. It's still hilarious to me that he started hating her guts, finding her gross, and then at the very end, he ends up doing the nasty with her and creating a cute little penguin baby in his likeness. Like, just the sheer irony of it all is just delicious to me. And I will never, never, never stop mocking him for it in my head. But in all due seriousness, though, once he actually allowed himself to get close to Haru and start opening himself up a little bit, there were a couple cute interactions between the two that I did enjoy. It's just a shame, though, that it took as long as it did to get to that point, because because you guys know that I do not like Kyosuke at all. Well, I didn't like him all that much throughout most of the story, at least. I mean, towards the end, when he finally found his balls and started rediscovering his own human conscience, and yeah, he started to slowly redeem himself a little bit towards the end for me. He's still an asshole as far as I'm concerned, but not an irredeemable one. And hey, he's got Haru leading him on a short leash, so I'm sure he'll be alright. He'll grow into a fully decent human being at some point, even if I never get to actually see it play out. Now, as for other stuff I liked about the story, well, I definitely liked how it delved into some of the themes regarding the nature of good and evil, and how human beings interact with such concepts in both in their day-to-day lives and when faced with certain particular challenges that well, most people wouldn't really find themselves dealing with, like what all the characters in the story ended up having to go through with Mao and his machinations. And there are just, I mean, where do I even start with that? I mean, you got the thing with Tsubaki, and you got the whole thing with Tsubaki and her relationship with her family, and how she started off as just a sweet, caring, all-loving girl before meeting Kyohei, and, well, being exposed to, frankly, the darker side of humanity, and how, at least for a while, it really brought out the negative sides of her. And she had to basically pull herself back from the brink when she realized that how much of a negative impact that her transformation during that her character arc was having on those that she cared about the most, especially her youngest sibling. So she ended up coming out of the whole thing changed, but I would say arguably for the better, while also having a bit more understanding of Kyosuke and some parts of the world around her. And it's kind of a similar deal with Kanan and Shiratori too. I would argue it's just they went about learning similar lessons in different ways. Kanan with her dysfunctional relationship with her mother, and Shiratori, well, her dysfunctional relationship with her sister, and by extension her father. But all that being said here, I guess that's a perfect segue to talk about one of the negatives that I feel that the story still has, in spite of well, everything, really. I mean, okay, I guess that doesn't really make much sense, but what I'm trying to say is the alternate routes with the heroines, Tsubaki's route, Kanan's route, Shiratori's route, they each individually had some good moments for them, in them, I mean. They both had some interesting moments that allowed us to get some real insight into who the heroines are as people, and give us some pretty interesting character arcs for them that all, at least as long as we made the right choices with them, had some decently satisfying payoffs in the end. But all that being said, I don't really like how they're just obviously tacked on to the main story between Kyosuke and Haru and Mawu. Like, it's obvious from this. It's obvious once you get to this point, after having played the whole game from start to finish. This whole story feels like as though it was meant to be experienced as something more kinetic in nature, with just the one story route being between Kyosuke, Haru, Mawu, and so on. The other heroines' routes, to me, just feel like as though they were just tacked on just to give some more variety to the story and the characters that honestly didn't really need to be there. And as a result, it ended up creating a natural consequence to where, once I decide to go on to another character's route, the whole story with Mawu just basically vanishes into the ether, often in pretty unsatisfying ways. When, to me, logically, it shouldn't. And then it just devolves into a wholly different story from there. Like, and it became especially egregious to me when I got to Shiratori's route in particular, because by that point, I felt I was already pretty deep into the Mawu storyline of the main route and everything. So to just see the whole thing just suddenly end, like it did with Kanan and Tsubaki's routes prior, especially that much later on to the story, just felt more jarring to me. Because at that point in the main story, it was clear that Mawu was building up to something, to some grandiose plan, which we later came to find out was his attack on the city, in order to release his father from prison. So to just see it end prematurely like that, with no clear explanation whatsoever, like in the previous characters' routes, at that point in the main story, I really don't know how else to put it other than it just feels especially jarring at that point, because at that point in the story, it feels like as though if he was going to turn back at any point, it would have had to have been at either Kanan's or Tsubaki's routes, while he was still relatively early into enacting his big grand master plan at getting revenge against the Sano Corporation, against the Japanese government, etc., etc. Like, I'm not sure if I'm really explaining this in a way that makes sense. I'm trying, but it's been a long time since I've done these on the spot end review summaries of games I cover. So yeah, I'm out of practice. So I'm just winging it and hoping I mostly make sense here. But moving on. Now, for the final little bits I like here, well, there's really not much more I can really go into other than what I've already explained, I think. I mean, I liked a lot of the funny character interactions that Kyosuke would have with some of his classmates at school when nothing particularly serious was going on. His antics with Eiichi were often, admittedly, pretty amusing. Especially when Kyosuke lost his shit at Shiratori creating a crack in his Wagner CD, and that was just one of the funniest moments of the whole story for me, hands down. Because it not only showed that this guy, that Kyosuke, it humanized Kyosuke in a very unexpected way for me. And I was just having an absolute ball with it. And it just pissed me off so much that it couldn't go on for longer than it did. Because I was just having so much fun just watching him ham it up. Gave me an excuse to ham it up a little bit too. I don't get those very often, and frankly, I kind of need to improve my vocal range in a few areas anyway, as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to voice acting. So, I mean, hey, I'll take any excuse I can get to act out a little bit, other than just speaking in my normal narrating voice or monotone monospeak, or whatever you want to call it. And then, of course, speaking of funny events, pretty much 70% of all of Kyosuke's interactions with Haru were pretty much comedy gold for me. Because she was just the one person who just seemed to be the best at getting under his skin, whether she intends to or not. Which again brings me back to what I was saying earlier, where when they consummated their relationship at the end, just looking back at all those moments where he acted like he just could not stand to even be in the same room as her, and then creating a family with her. Like, again, do I really need to go into detail again as to why that's just damn hilarious to me? Because it is. It's freaking hilarious. It's ironic. It's hilarious. Oh yeah, I almost forgot to mention. So, my own feelings on the big plot twist regarding Mau's true identity aside, for just a little while at least. Again, I'll be getting to that soon enough. I was honestly pretty impressed with how freaking competent Mau is, or was, as a villain, all the way to the very end. Like, I remember a lot of the main characters just ended up saying to themselves that Mau's arrogance would be his own undoing. But looking back on the entire story from what I recall from beginning to end, especially at the end, did the guy ever actually lose in the traditional sense to any of the heroes? Because I don't think he did. I think pretty much nearly every single one of his schemes, save for bombing Azai in his car, save for that little bit, just not going as he intended. Virtually everything that he did, almost everything that he did throughout the story, he managed to pull off without a hitch, and often with style too. The guy, especially towards the end, was freaking despicable as a human being as far as I'm concerned, but I won't lie. I did have fun just watching the guy just enact all his big schemes and his master plan with just unstoppable confidence and assurance in his own capability. Like, he felt like somebody who you could literally follow into the depths of hell and come out unscathed. Which I guess is kind of appropriate given his character and his nickname and all that, but the guy was a freaking genius, as other characters have pointed out. I think he, for the most part, pretty much just lived up to that moniker, that title. Especially towards the end. I mean, yeah, I guess the way he went out in the end was honestly a bit anticlimactic, but at least in some respects, because I'm like, after everything that the guy managed to pull off, to just basically commit suicide by Haru or Kyosuke, it also kind of makes sense given what happened to his father and everything after he ended up getting released in prison, because, well, simply put, Mau's quest for vengeance ended up destroying him in the end. Especially right when it seemed like he was finally going to get what he wanted most after all the years that he had worked towards releasing his father, only for him to just die overseas because of his heart condition without ever having actually seen him. It is honestly a bit tragic in a way, but also the more you think about it, I can't really think of a more deserving way for karma to really bite the guy in the ass. Because for all his genius, for all his hard work, for all of his success, fate decided to give him the biggest middle finger of all, and deny him what he sought most, right as he was about to grasp it within his fingertips. And so, with nothing left to live for at that point, well, why not go out by getting one last act of vengeance out against Haru and by extension his brother? As a person, the guy's despicable, but as a villain, Mao was often very fun and entertaining to watch. I just wish, though, that, and I guess this is about as good a segue as any for it. I just wish that the big plot twist regarding his true identity, when we saw who he really is a few episodes ago, I personally, okay, you guys know that up until that point, I was of the firm belief that Mao was just an alternate personality of Kyosuke that was born from both his traumas, his stress, and his underlying resentment to both the world around him and the people that have effectively ruined his and his family's life. I basically viewed Mao as like the id to Kyosuke's ego. If you want to reference Freudian psychology, where any underlying anger or resentment that Kyosuke had towards anybody or anything, Mao, the id, would deliver it with a vengeance. Like, does that make sense? So, I was also invested in the idea because it also brought with it to me a very interesting conflict that I felt would have been very nail biting at times, and probably also very philosophical in nature. Well, I guess not. I'm not sure if philosophical is the right word for it, but anyway, what I'm trying to say is, it would have created a very, very, very interesting conflict for Haru, I feel, if the man that she was chasing, the man who had killed her mother when she was young, somehow ended up turning out to be basically another version of Kyosuke, who, as we came to find out around the time we learned this big twist, he was not only her childhood friend, but someone who she deeply loved ever since they were children. It's like, just think about it for a minute. Like, what kind of internal conflicts would Haru have gone through if she were to find out that both the devil that she had been chasing and that the man that she loves and wants to reconnect with were actually both the same person? And on top of that, the man that she loved, at least initially, isn't even aware of it. Like, how exactly would she have dealt with something like that, I wonder? How could such a conflict have been resolved? Would it have just ended only in tragedy for both characters, or could somebody have found a way here to, well, for lack of a better description, exorcise the devil from within Kyosuke's heart and allow him to, well, be rid of the guy, even if that ultimately would have to result in him having to face the punishment for the crimes that he ended up doing as Mao. But that's not really the story that we ended up getting in the end. Instead, it turns out that Mao was Kyosuke's long-lost older brother who faked his death, and, well, turns out has just been impersonating him throughout much of the story, getting him to take the fall for any schemes of his that would inevitably draw attention to Kyosuke. I was initially very angry at this reveal because initially I could not recall any details that served as any actual that gave me any semblance of foreshadowing to Kyohei's existence. I couldn't recall anything that could give me any firm hints that Mao and Kyosuke were not indeed the same person, but they could have been two different people rather than just one and the same, like both I initially assumed throughout the story, and how the story itself seemed to frame them as for most of it up until the big reveal. I was angry. I couldn't think of anything, but after venting my frustration in the whole thing and just continuing on with the story, whenever I wasn't recording any new episodes, I did take the time to try to remember anything I could from the story proper that could have retroactively helped me just figure out just what was going on with that big twist. Basically, okay, did I miss anything? Did I miss any details that could have told that if I just remembered, or if I had noticed or paid closer attention to, that maybe that big plot twist wouldn't have been such a huge shock to me? And long story short, I feel like there is, and I know, and well, I'm prepared to get a little egg on my face for this, but, yeah. I think there actually was some foreshadowing to Kyohei being a separate entity from Kyosuke that I just didn't really pick up on in retrospect, that if I did, would have made the plot twist a lot less shocking to me, and a lot less aggravating. Like, for example, Kyosuke's main story arc for most of the story, prior to everything going on with Mao coming to a head, was him accumulating as much money as he could in order to get himself and his mother out of debt. Because that was the whole reason that he supposedly went with Azai to begin with, was to get out of poverty and eventually get his mother out of poverty too, after clearing both of their debts. So if he was already dealing with that much financial trouble while living with the big man himself, Azai, how exactly could he have acquired the money as Mao to pull off a lot of the schemes that we saw him pull off, with purchasing stocks in order to try to manipulate the stock market in order to acquire Tsubaki's property, their land, and then everything, and then the money he had to have undoubtedly needed to use to enact his scheme with Kanon at an ice skating ring and forming a bomb, all and everything else he did during that. And I'm going to, and yeah, just little details like that when it comes to the money thing here. Like, the more I thought about it, I slowly started to realize Kyosuke, in all likelihood, could not have afforded all of that. Because, given how obsessed he was with money throughout most of the story, if he was actually, as an alternate personality, spending some of his own private funds on some of these schemes, wouldn't he have noticed large sums of money from his personal safe or something like that going missing? So there's that little detail, and there's also the fact of, well, especially as we learned more details about Haru's backstory in regards to what happened to her and her mother at that concert. Kyosuke would have been around Haru's age when that event happened. So, in short, in all likelihood, he would have been he would have been too young, unless, like, actually no. Now that I think about it, his age wouldn't necessarily be an issue, because child soldiers are a thing, and I imagine the same is true for certain terrorist cells out in the world. I think the real issue, the real issue with what I initially believed to be Kyosuke's role in Haru's mother's death is the fact that it occurred all the way across the world, away from Japan, right when they were both still young. Kyosuke should still have been with his mother around the time this attack occurred. If I'm getting the general dates of when all these events occur right. So how would Kyosuke, young as he is, be able to travel all the way to the world to where Haru and her mother were, let alone figure out where they are to begin with, kill them, and participate in murdering Haru's mother, and then fleeing all the way back to Japan without his mom or anybody else really noticing anything off? That would have been impossible for him to pull off, I think. And then, of course, there's also the final little detail where when Mao was in control, whenever he gave out his name to people, whenever he gives out his name to certain people who ask for it, I remember him on at least a couple points referring to himself as Asai. And given how cautious Kyosuke generally is when it came to keeping his own identity a secret, well, okay. Now that I think about it, no, actually, no. I'm second guessing myself here. No, that would have put him, Mao, and Kyosuke both at serious risk, just casually giving out his identities like that. Just like enacting some of his big plots regarding Tsubaki and Kanon would have put him at risk if he was spotted by any of Kyosuke's associates. Because I also remember several people, like Shiratori at one point, having caught a glimpse of Mao and mistaking him for Kyosuke. So he just basically, throughout the story, also took a lot of huge risks that would have put Kyosuke himself at risk, which would have been stupid for Mao if Mao and Kyosuke were the same person, and Mao was trying to enact some big revenge scheme that required him to not get himself caught. And given how smart the guy shows himself to be throughout the whole story, it wouldn't make sense for him to put himself in unnecessary risk like that, unless he and Kyosuke were two separate people. Which brings me to my main point of all of this. So, taking everything I just been spending the past several minutes explaining into account, when I started realizing and thinking over all these little details, the further along I went into the finale on my own time, when I wasn't recording anything, it really became apparent to me that there were more details regarding Kyohei's existence as a separate entity in the story than I initially realized. Now, why I didn't really pick up on these details, well, who the hell knows, really. But the important thing is, in retrospect, frankly, I guess I was wrong. I was wrong about Kyohei being a last-minute addition to the story. He wasn't, clearly. There was just some very, very, very subtle hints that I was just not able to pick up on, and I allowed myself to just get too caught up in my assumptions about who I thought Mao was, assuming that I already had the full story when, well, I clearly didn't, as I just been explaining. Or rather, I didn't understand everything that I was seeing at first throughout the story. So yeah, the egg I feel on my face right now, I deserve it. So, I don't really know what else to say on that other than, yeah, I was just wrong, and because of that, I'm willing to get a little egg on my face for it. But all that being said, though, that still doesn't change. That still doesn't change the fact that I still feel that the story would have been. I personally feel it would have been more interesting, a little bit better if the story stuck to the idea of Kyohei, of Mau and Kyosuke being the same person the whole way through. For the reasons I gave earlier. But again, that's just my personal opinion on it here. Ultimately, I did end up enjoying the finale that we ended up actually getting here. And after taking some time to really think the whole story over in the interim, yeah, again, it's not perfect, especially in regards to how tacked on the other heroines' routes feel. But if you just took their routes out, or at least found a way to incorporate portions of the other heroines' routes into the main story without detracting too much from it, and still allowing Kyosuke to have and these other heroines to have some mutual character arcs and character development with each other, have them play off each other a little bit. I think this game's story could have gone from great to something truly special. But at the very least, I think the other heroines' routes could be pretty much cut out from the main story, and it wouldn't have that much of a negative impact on the whole package, if any. But once again, that's just my opinion. Oh yeah, I almost forgot to mention. There's one last positive I want to at least mention for this little thing before I wrap things up. Eiichi game blueballed. Great entertainment. That is all. I love watching that little man suffer. Being denied dates, getting humiliated in various ways, watching his own idiocy come back to haunt him, but most importantly, watching his libido get denied. In all due fairness to Eiichi, though, he isn't all that bad. He does have a couple redeeming qualities to him, but well, he's just that one little sidekick that if I knew him in real life, I would relentlessly mock him if I had to be associated with him at all. Just because it would just be so much fun to just because I would have so much fun finding ways to rile him up. Vitriolic best friends, I guess you could call us. Unless I ended up getting under his skin too much, in which case he wouldn't want to associate with me after a while, in which case, well, I won't lose any sleep over it. I won't lie about that, but... yeah, just... Eiichi admittedly was also a pretty entertaining character in his own right, if only because he brought out the sadistic side of me. You know what I mean? Anyway, I think I've rambled on long enough. If there's any other particular questions that you guys have about my feelings or thoughts on certain other aspects of the story that I didn't talk about here, then, well, feel free to shoot me a comment or a message about it, and I'll get back to you on it as soon as I can. So, Devil on G-String. A few problems with the overall package aside, I definitely give it a thumbs up. I would definitely recommend it to anybody who wants to enjoy a fun cat and mouse thriller adventure visual novel game. And with all that being said, this has been the last episode of The Devil on G-String.
If you enjoyed it, along with my whole run on the entire series, and you want to see more content from me, feel free to subscribe to my channel. And feel free to hit that like button, because it apparently also helps me out in the YouTube algorithm, and I definitely am not against the idea of seeing my videos get a little bit more reach towards any newcomers who might be interested to see what I have to offer. I will see you all next time for the next series. Take care.